Natassoon. You're welcome. Natalie.
All right, we're on the record in 2019 CR 6322, State of Texas versus Juan Antonio Sanchez Garcia. We have an interpreter. Could you raise your right hand for me, please?
Arlene Abrams,
Right.
license number 2081.
All right, do you solemnly swear and affirm you will faithfully translate from English into Spanish and Spanish into English, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, you can lower your hand. All right, and we'll just wait for defense counsel. Good morning. So where's Mr. Liao?
He's in the building. Saw him like a minute, 2 minutes before I walked in. I'm not sure where he is at this moment. I called, but I mean, I can run down and see if I can find him, but I don't want to leave if you want me to stay, Your Honor.
All right, if you give the clerk his number to call him, because we're supposed to be starting at 9 a.m. and the jurors are here.
I understand, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
You know what's the number?
All right, if you, let me see the number because I'm going to text him. Is this a 488?
No, 889-3846.
Okay. All right, counsel, are you the person who's going to be taking this witness?
No, Your Honor, Mr. Liao. He's got the paperwork that was given to us as well, the discovery. Your Honor, if you give me 2 minutes, I can go try to, I know where he was going. I can go down and
Where was he going?
County Court 12.
Oh, no.
No, to reset a case. That was earlier.
No, he should have been here because this is district court. I don't know why people think county court takes precedence.
Well, no, he went there before 9 to reset a case. He was on his way here. And I don't know what happened,
Yeah.
you know.
All right,
between.
bring the jury in, please.
There it is.
If you'll bring the jury in.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, please. You're welcome. You're ready.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. State, call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. We call Dr. Kassoon.
All right, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record, please.
Dr. Natalie Kissoon.
All right, state.
Judge, I have a Daubert hearing on file that I need to conduct with this witness outside the presence of the jury.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll step out for a moment, please. Oh, no. State, are you offering this witness as an expert?
We are, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
Sorry?
Defense, you may proceed.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I want everyone to focus on the reason why we're having this hearing. It's not for side issues. It's directly related to what she's here to testify about.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Deputy Lord, they can probably sit in the
Okay.
jury room. All right, ask your questions. counsel.
Yes, doctor, you have a medical degree, I suppose, is that right?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a medical degree?
Yes,
All right, and what is that degree from?
the University of South Florida College of Medicine,
All right, and when did you graduate from that institution?
2008.
2008. Okay. And at first you were your medical degree was kind of like a degree in general medicine.
So when you graduate from medical school, you're a medical doctor, but you can't practice medicine here in the United States. You need to do a residency. And during your residency is where you learn to be the kind of doctor that you're going to be. I chose to be a pediatrician. So my residency was in general pediatrics.
Oh, your residency was in general pediatrics. And how long did your residency last?
3 years.
3 years. And where did you do that residency?
Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C.
Okay. And you are aside from your residency, is that when thereafter you're allowed to practice medicine in your area? Is that?
You can be a general pediatrician. So that's, you can see kids in the emergency department. You can see kids in an office. You can see kids in a hospital.
Okay. Now, but the question is, did you start treatment or treating patients right after your residency?
During residency, I treated patients the entire 3 years.
All right. And thereafter, did you set up your own office or did you work through a hospital or?
I did. I worked in an emergency department and then in a community hospital for 10 months.
All right. And then did you take some courses about child abuse, pediatrics, or what?
No,
How
I
did that come
completed a
about?
fellowship training in child abuse pediatrics.
Did you also work with Dr. Kellogg in that
Dr.
area?
Kellogg is my immediate supervisor.
Your immediate supervisor? Okay. Is she your supervisor right now or not?
As in my boss,
She's your boss?
correct.
Okay. And you're working at, where do you work right now?
The Center for Miracles.
The Center for Miracles, all right? And the Center for Miracles is like an investigative arm of law enforcement, is that right?
It is not.
It
It
is
is a
not?
medical clinic where we do medical evaluations for any child with concern for child maltreatment, which includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect.
But generally, the Center for Miracles sees clients suspected of child abuse?
Correct.
Okay. And, okay, and how long have you been doing that?
Working at the Center for Miracles
Right,
since 2015.
2015?
Yes.
And about how many patients you see through the Center for Miracles?
I do approximate between 250 and 300 patient evaluations every year.
250 to 300? Okay. And you've been doing that since 2015? You've seen those many patients?
Yes.
Okay. And that is 7.5, 8 years ago since you started?
Yes.
Okay. Now, generally, you are here to testify as to your findings or your diagnosis in this particular case, as well as the same, under the same path that you have testified before about your findings in child abuse cases?
I'm here to answer the questions, and if those are the questions that are asked, then yes.
Okay. But you're not here to testify, about credibility of the patient or anything like that, right?
I do not judge as a medical professional, we do not judge the credibility.
Right, because you have no tools to diagnose that. I mean, credibility of a patient or.
Correct. We talk about histories being consistent.
History being consistent. So when you find, so your findings, when you mean history being consistent, means that your findings, you cannot tell where child abuse occurred and child abuse did not occur, right?
We can make medical diagnoses regarding child physical abuse, child sexual abuse, and neglect.
Right. But when there is no signs of physical trauma, you generally tend to say it's consistent with the history provided.
Your Honor, we'd object at this point. The question is outside the limited scope of the hearing.
Sustained.
Now, concerning your findings, diagnosis, in this case, what can you provide citations of studies that will support that will tend to support your findings?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, outside the scope.
That's not outside the scope.
Your Honor, this is to
Sustained.
determine. Thank you.
Next question.
Is that
I've
sustained?
sustained the objection.
Okay,
With regards to the Daubert, you need to know what her expertise is, what she's here to testify about, what is her specialized knowledge that will help with the testimony, and whether there's sufficient data and facts that support whatever she's here to say. The court
that's-
doesn't know what she's here to say.
right. What specific data do you have that will support your findings in this case?
A huge breadth of medical literature to include textbooks, multiple textbooks, as well as multiple peer-reviewed papers that support when to make a diagnosis
Well,
concerning for sexual abuse.
well, specifically, which can you cite some studies that you have conducted that will support your evaluation in this case?
I have not personally conducted studies regarding sexual abuse.
Okay, and have you published in any scientific journals any studies that you have conducted?
I have not conducted any studies regarding sexual abuse.
Okay, can you cite some authority in the area of sexual abuse that will support the findings in this case?
Names of people,
Names of people, articles.
yes, Carol, Jenny, John Leventhal, Nancy Kellogg, Jim Lucifer, Laura Spiller, Lori Frazier,
Okay.
Cindy Christensen. I mean, all of these are well-known published child abuse pediatricians who have a multitude of papers on child sexual abuse, as well as textbooks on child
All right.
sexual abuse.
Any specific textbooks that will support your findings in this case?
Yes, diagnosis and treatment and management of child sexual abuse. That's edited by Carol Jenny. I don't know the name of this specific textbook, but I can send you a list of articles and textbooks.
Okay, and in your area of practice, have you heard of the name Dr. Richard Kaplan out of the University of Minnesota?
Dr. Kaplan,
Right.
yes,
Is he in authority in this field?
I don't know. I know the name, but I can't recall very specifics about it.
Is he, have you read any of his books or articles that he had published?
I suspect I have. Again, I can't recall specifics of it.
All right. Do you know that whether or not he's a board certified doctor in child pediatrics and sexual abuse of children?
I don't
You
know
do
his
not know?
qualifications.
You don't know about his qualifications?
I do not know Dr. Richard Kaplan's qualifications.
Okay. But you know of his name, right?
I've heard the name, yes.
All right. And as an expert in this area as well.
I don't
Objection, Your
recall,
Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
All right, you can answer the question.
I don't recall where and how I know the name.
Will that be important to know in your area?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Lack of personal knowledge outside of the scope of the hearing.
With regards to outside the scope of the hearing, that will be sustained.
Okay. Can you tell us, as part of your job, what do you do at the Center for Miracles?
We do complete medical evaluations for any child where there is a concern for child maltreatment. What a complete medical evaluation entails is doing a complete history, which includes a history of present illness, a medical history, a family history, a social history, as well as a complete physical exam and any review of any testing or recommendations for testing as well, and then taking all of that information, making an assessment regarding our level of concern for child maltreatment.
And what techniques do you use to accomplish that?
I don't understand your question.
Well, do you use, for example, a colposcope?
Correct. When we do physical exams where there's a concern for sexual abuse, we use a colposcope.
Now, do you, okay, and any other instrument that you use to assess a child?
So a stethoscope, otoscope, ophthalmoscope. We sometimes, when we do sexual abuse exams, we may need to use a swab, which is the size of the Q-tip that goes in your ear, just on a much longer stick.
Okay, and then you evaluate the child for trauma, is that right?
I'm sorry?
You see whether or not it is acute or non-acute, or is there trauma or?
That is part of what we do. So we're doing a complete head to toe physical exam. Our goal is to ensure the mental and physical well-being of children.
Same child, physical.
Then is there any follow-up to your examination? Like, do you see children thereafter, after you make the original evaluation as a same expert?
Sometimes,
Sometimes. Did you do that in this case?
no.
And did you do any kind of a psychological evaluation as well, or are you qualified to do that?
We, as a general pediatrician and a child abuse pediatrician, we are asked to ask about symptoms that may be symptomatic of an underlying mental illness, such as feelings of sadness or anger or aggression or nightmares or hypervigilance that may signify that there's an underlying mental illness. So we screen for those things and make recommendations as to whether further, more in-depth evaluation with a psychologist or a psychiatrist who are trained to make those diagnoses should do so.
But you don't get deeply into psychological issues. You just screen for them in order to see if there is a need for further analysis.
Yes,
Okay. And did you prescribe medications in this case
Objection, Your Honor, outside the scope.
outside the
Sustained.
treatment? Concerning treatment provided.
Sustained.
Now, did you refer for therapy?
Objection, outside the scope of the hearing.
Sustained.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, any questions from the state?
Dr. Kissoon, have you previously testified as an expert witness in court?
yes,
Approximately how many times?
50.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, any further questions?
How are you going to assist what is your opinion in how you're going to assist the trial of fact to understand the evidence?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Do you have any expertise in physical trauma?
Objection, outside the scope of cross-examination.
That will be overruled. You can answer the question.
Yes,
And what is your level of expertise in that area?
I do medical evaluations for children when there's concerns for physical abuse, neglect, sexual abuse. So part of my job is to look at injuries and determine mechanisms of injuries.
Okay. And that's part of your physical evaluation, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Pastor Winninger.
Any questions?
No, no questions, Your Honor.
All right, court will hear argument. Defense?
Judge, my argument is that this doctor is it's here to basically testify in an effort to bolster the witness credibility, and because there were lack of findings, no physical evidence, and everything that the child said, it's only based on medical diagnosis, or I'm sorry, medical history. And there were no signs of trauma, no physical findings concerning her private areas, and there is nothing in her testimony that would assist the trial of fact in helping with the evidence or determine a fact in issue in this case.
Your Honor, the purpose of this hearing is to determine whether, based on her educational and occupational background, Dr. Kissoon can be recognized as an expert witness in the field. Based on her educational and occupational background alone, in addition with the amount of times that she has been presented as an expert witness in the courts, we believe that we have met the threshold for Dr. Kissoon to be recognized as an expert. And to counsel's point as to her testimony being here to bolster the witness's credibility, Dr. Kissoon specifically testified that she is not, her occupation is not to determine the credibility of patients. It's to present the factual evidence that is presented during the examination. We ask that, we believe that we've met that threshold and that Dr. Kissoon should be recognized as an expert witness based on.
All right, she'll be allowed to testify. Bring the jurors in, please. Oh, and attorneys for state defense, make sure you speak in the microphone so the jurors can hear, because I think they're having a little bit trouble hearing. So just make sure you do that so they can hear. Yes.
All rights for the jury.
Everyone, please be seated. And I know you've already called your witness and the witness has been sworn in, but could you state your record one more time for the purposes of the jurors, please? Your name. Yes.
Dr. Natalie Kissoon.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Kissoon, how are you employed?
I work at the Center for Miracles here in San Antonio.
And what is the Center for Miracles?
It's a outpatient clinic where we do medical evaluations for any child where there's a concern for child maltreatment, which includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, and all forms of neglect.
And before we move on to that, can you tell us and the jury a little bit about your educational background that qualifies you as a medical doctor?
Yes, I completed my undergrad degree at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia in 2003. I attended medical school at the University of South Florida College of Medicine from 2004 to 2008. And then I completed a residency in general pediatrics from 2008 to 2011 at Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And then I did a fellowship in child abuse pediatric at Hasbro Children's Hospital at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island from 2012 to 2015.
And Dr. Kissoon, are you licensed to practice as a doctor in the state of Texas?
Yes,
And how long have you been licensed for?
since 2015 in the state of Texas.
And during the course of your duties as a medical doctor, do you examine children who have been suspected to have been sexually abused?
Yes,
And how approximately, if you can estimate, how many times have you done this during your career?
I've been doing evaluation specifically for child maltreatment since 2012, and approximately 200 to 300 exams, medical evaluations of children. I can't specifically block out the sexual abuse ones in that time.
And in general, what does your examination of a sexual abuse or of a abused complainant child consist of?
Yes. So we do complete medical evaluations like happens at any other physician's office. So we start off by taking a history. So the history of present illness, which is what we call, what's the reason that you came to see the doctor today? We do a medical history. So what has happened in your past, which includes hospitalizations and any other illnesses. We do a family history. So anything going on with your family that might potentially contribute to what's happening or what we might see in the evaluation we're doing today. We do a complete social history because as a pediatrician, what is happening in a child's home is as important as other things that might be contributing to what's going on for the reason they presented today. We do a complete physical exam, head to toe, looking at all of the skin, all of the body parts, specifically for sexual abuse. When we look at the genitals, we use a light and a magnifying glass called a colposcope. So that we can make sure that we don't miss anything. Then if there are any labs or imaging that had already been done, we review those. If those had not been done, but we think based on what we hear, it needs to happen, we order those. And then using all of that information, we make a diagnosis regarding child maltreatment.
So the purpose of the examination, in other words, is to diagnose whether or not abuse has occurred.
Correct. The purpose of our medical evaluations is for diagnosis and treatment.
And have you read any scientific literature relating to examination of sexual abuse complainants?
Yes.
And have you received any special training in that area?
So during my entire fellowship training, that every child that I saw during that time was someone had a concern for child maltreatment, so physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect. I have a supervisor throughout that entire time of training who observes my interaction with patients, the way I talk with them, the way I examine them. And then at the end of that fellowship training, my supervisors certify that I am able to conduct these medical evaluations without direct supervision.
And now directing your attention to this complainant in particular, did you conduct a sexual assault examination on Mia Escalante on November 12th of 2018?
So she presented to our clinic, and I am now a supervisor. So we have fellows who are learning to be child abuse pediatricians in our clinic, and she was a patient of my fellow with me as the supervisor.
And were you present at all times that Mia was at the Center for Miracles?
I was not.
When Mia presented to the Center for Miracles, what did you observe about her condition, if anything?
I don't recall.
What did she present to the Center for Miracles for?
She was referred due to concerns for sexual abuse.
And did you when Mia was at the Center for Miracles, did you observe how she was emotionally?
I don't recall.
Now, during the examination, what tests and what tests were conducted on Mia?
So we did testing for sexually transmitted infections, including chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, hepatitis B and C, and HIV.
And was a report generated for Mia's visit to the Center for Miracles?
Yes,
And did you review that report?
yes.
And did what if anything did Mia allege occurred to cause her to arrive to the Center for Miracles?
She disclosed penile anal penetration.
Did she disclose the who caused the penile to anal penetration?
Father.
And when did she indicate when the last incident of penetration occurred?
She stated approximately 4 to 5 months prior to being in our clinic.
And in general, what are some findings that you would expect to observe on children who have been sexually abused?
So in general, when we think about kids who have been sexually abused, up to 95 to 96%.
I'm going to object to the word in general, Judge. We're here on a specific case and we have a doctor that was present during the same examination. I'd like the questions to be directed to that specific case.
All right, objection is overruled. You can answer.
So 95 to 96% of children who have disclosed sexual abuse have a completely normal exam, regardless of the type of exposure or sexual abuse that they've disclosed. The reason that is because children
I'm going to
don't.
object to the witness non-responsive answer to the question asked.
All right, that'll be overruled.
The reason that most exams are normal is that most children don't disclose sexual abuse immediately when it happens. And so
I'm
sometimes.
going to object to the narrative, Judge.
All right, that'll be overruled.
So some time has passed. Also, not all sexual abuse includes something that's going to cause an injury that we can then see. Additionally, properties of your body. So that part of your body, your genitals, your anus, are made to stretch and accommodate. So even in young children, regardless of the size of the object used, it may not cause any injury because that's what that part of the body is made to do. Additionally, that part of your body, the type of tissue that it
I'm
is.
going to object to the question, to the answer not being responsive to the question asked, Judge.
All right, that will be overruled.
The type of tissue is a tissue that heals really quickly. And so even if something happened that caused an injury, we know that kids don't disclose immediately. By the time we see them, they have a completely normal exam because things have healed and look completely normal. And that does not mean that what they're disclosing did or did not happen simply because they have a normal exam when we see them.
So in other words, to kind of narrow this down a little bit, it's possible that a child who presents and alleges sexual abuse would show no injury or trauma.
I'm going to
It is-
object to calls for speculation, Judge.
Overruled.
We expect to find no trauma. And if there is trauma, that is for us in our field, an abnormal finding because 95 to 96% of exams are completely normal.
And you said that Mia presented to the Center for Miracles approximately 4 to 5 months after she reported the last incidents of sexual assault or sexual abuse, correct?
Yes.
And would you expect to find any injury or trauma in general on an individual who presents alleging sexual abuse after 4 to 5 months?
I'm going to object to the leading question, Judge.
All right, that'll be overruled.
No.
And now going back to Mia, did you find any injury or trauma throughout your examination?
No,
And I have one more. Did Mia report any injury or trauma caused by the incidents?
no,
And did you make any findings regarding Mia's examination?
my medical diagnosis was concerning for sexual abuse.
And what did you base that diagnosis on?
The complete medical evaluation, so the history as well as the physical exam and the results of tests.
We'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Defense.
You mentioned that you work for the Center for Miracles, is that right?
Yes,
And the Center for Miracles only examines children suspected of child abuse?
yes,
So you only see children where you think that you will find evidence of child abuse
no,
at the center?
Objective mischaracterization of Dr. Kissoon's
I'm gonna
testimony.
object to the,
Overrule.
at the Center for Miracles, you only see children that where you think you will find evidence of child abuse.
no,
You see children that are not referred to you because of physical trauma or child abuse?
can you repeat that? So
Yeah, the question is, you see other children, but you see children suspected of physical abuse, child abuse, emotional abuse, and anything related to abuse or neglect of a child, is that right?
yes,
Okay, and you don't see normal children in the Center for Miracles, not suspected of child abuse.
correct.
Okay. And in this particular case, you said that there were no findings of physical trauma on the child?
Correct.
Okay. And let me ask you, there is no such thing as diagnosis of child abuse, is there?
Yes, there is
Where is your authority for that?
the ICD-10 coding authority where we make, where
What was
we,
that?
the coding authority for medical diagnoses.
Coding authority, is that like the pharmaceutical or?
I'm sorry, the what?
What's coding? What does that mean? Is that an acronym or?
That's the authority that tells the doctors what diagnoses they can make that they can bill their services to. So a child comes in with an earache, you diagnose an ear infection, there's a diagnosis code for ear infection.
But so far as do you know a person by the name of Dr. Richard Kaplan?
Objection, relevance.
Overrule.
I do not know him.
Have you heard of him?
Yes,
Is he a doctor such as yourself?
I don't recall his qualifications.
You don't think he's a medical doctor?
Objection. Lack of personal knowledge.
Overrule.
I don't recall his qualifications.
Okay, so if you don't recall, then it's possible that he's also a medical doctor, a pediatric doctor certified in child abuse.
Yes,
Okay. And would you dispute his that there is no medical diagnosis of child abuse? Do you dispute that?
Yes, I dispute that.
Have you read any of his books that he has published or articles he has written in the field?
I don't recall.
So it's possible that you have read his articles and books, you just don't happen to recall them right now?
Yes,
Okay. So the examination are in this particular case was for the purpose of investigation and documentation of sexual child abuse.
the evaluation was for the purposes of medical diagnosis and treatment.
So you were not investigating child abuse? Is that what you're telling the jury?
I was evaluating this child because someone had a concern for child maltreatment.
Okay, so you were investigating, basically.
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Conducting a medical evaluation.
So it seems to me that you have a problem with the word investigation.
I do.
Okay. What is your definition of investigation in the medical field?
The word investigation has multitude of definitions. And if it is meant to evaluate a child from a medical standpoint to make a medical diagnosis, then that is the investigation that I can complete versus investigation. We are sitting in a court of law. That is a different investigation than what I conduct.
So the investigation you conducted is for the purpose of documenting your findings, basically, of child abuse.
To complete a medical evaluation, which does include documentation of that medical evaluation.
Right. But I ask you for the definition of your medical diagnosis as an investigator of child abuse, and you just provided one, right? That there is such a thing as investigating in the medical field.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you work hand in hand with law enforcement. Is that right?
We explain medical information to the investigative partners in the community, such as law enforcement.
And you also work hand in hand with the district attorney's office. Is that right?
When we are asked to explain medical information by the district attorney's office, we explain medical information.
All right. The children for the San Antonio Hospital for children, is that where the Center for Miracles is located?
Yes,
Okay. And how much do you get paid for each of your analysis that you conduct?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
I don't know how much each exam is cost. I am paid a salary by the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio.
And that's through funding provided by the state and the county, is that correct?
It's a state university.
Funding provided by the state and the county.
I don't know the specific funding sources for the university. I know that there is a grant with regards to child maltreatment that the university receives.
And also grants that cover suspicion of child abuse, is that correct? Grants that also cover the area of child abuse, is that right?
Yes,
Money is provided to the center for that.
through the university. Yes,
Well, you get the check through the university to the hospital to you ultimately, right?
the university pays my salary.
But if the money ends up with you in your hands.
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Now, you mentioned that you've performed two 200 to 300 analyses per year,
Yes,
okay? And what percentage, does that take like most of your time as a doctor?
yes,
Okay. So you are specifically, your work is entirely consistent of evaluating children suspected of child abuse, is that right?
yes.
Okay. And how much do you get paid?
Objection,
that.
relevance, and
That'll be overruled.
Like how much
Do you want to know my salary?
Yes, how much do you get paid a year to do that?
$172,000.
Okay, so have you ever divided what's $172,000 versus 200 or 300 cases?
objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
Now, if let me ask you, in performing the examination, the objective, as you were saying, is investigation for medical diagnosis and documentation, right?
Medical diagnosis and treatment.
And also document, you produce document out of that examination, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
A physician has to document their medical encounter.
Okay. But your objective is investigation and documentation, not treatment.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered, mischaracterization of Dr. Kassoon's testimony.
Overruled. You can answer.
The purpose of evaluating children is to ensure their complete physical and mental well-being, which includes evaluating and potentially treatment.
In this particular case, did you do a follow-up?
I did not see, she did not return to our clinic.
All right. So what treatment did you provide to this person?
We made recommendations for follow-up. So she needed to follow up with counseling with someone who was a trauma-informed counselor. She needed to continue follow-up with her pediatrician. We did her labs, which were all negative, so she did not need any medication.
But did you do any post treatment examination of the child or after November 12, 2018?
No,
Is there a difference between sexual examination? You're a sane person, is that correct? Sexual abuse nurse examiner, do you perform that role?
I am not a SANE, but I do medical evaluations for children concerns for sexual abuse.
You do something different than a sane?
No, I do what they do, but I am not a SANE. That's a sexual assault nurse examiner. So that's a nurse who is trained to do medical evaluations with concerns for sexual abuse.
So you do that examination to any child that is referred to you on suspicion of sexual abuse, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, and but is that the responsibility of a person in your position to determine to distinguish between children who had been abused and children who have not been abused at that point before the examination, right?
I don't understand the
The
question.
question is, before you examine the child, like you did in this particular case, and I don't think you did, you were present in the room, right?
I did not. physically conduct the examination. I supervised my fellow while he physically touched the patient.
Okay. And, but, when the child and before the examination was conducted, you have no way of determining if the child has been abused or not abused before the examination.
Based on their history, they're
Before you take the history.
correct, because I've not done any evaluation. So I don't have a diagnosis. I don't make any diagnoses before my complete medical evaluation.
So if a person or a child in this particular case reports sexual abuse, you or some other qualified person, like in this case, the other doctor that actually placed his hands on the patient, examines the child, right?
Yes,
Okay. And the mother was present as well, is that correct?
I don't specifically recall. It's documented if she was, you mean in the room for
In the
the,
room with the child.
I don't specifically recall the documentation.
So if you don't specifically recall, is it possible that she was there? You just don't recall it?
Yes,
Okay. And if you don't recall in this particular case, do mothers of children are present during the examination generally?
if the child wants their parent or caregiver to be present during our exam, then the caregiver is present during our exam.
And you ask, because the child is child, but you ask for consent to perform the examination, right?
Yes,
And there's a specific forms that the mother has to fill out?
the caregiver who presents to our clinic signs consent forms for the complete medical evaluation.
Now, do you take any photographs or
Yes.
did you bring those photographs with you?
No.
So how are we gonna evaluate whether or not, you know, what you did or how it was done?
I'm not sure how to answer your question.
We'll try.
I'm telling you what I did and what I saw.
Well, you took photographs, that's what you're telling them.
Yes,
And you knew that this was a sexual assault of a child case, right?
yes,
And then you were supposed to testify this morning about your findings.
yes,
Did you bring your file with you?
no,
Did you bring photographs with you?
no.
So how are we gonna show this jury that you did what you were supposed to do, and what you did on that particular time during the examination?
I'm telling you exactly what I did.
So we just had to rely on your say so, basically,
I guess.
right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is not a surprise to you that you were supposed to testify today, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained. Yes,
May I have just a minute to change the battery on my?
yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just a short break. So we'll be back here at 10:15 just so that she can change out her batteries and we can see if we need to exchange interpreters or when we're going to do that, okay? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.
And everything.
All right, thanks.
All right, for the jury.
Should be.
Oh, everyone please be seated.
And defense, you were still on cross?
Thank you.
All right.
You testified that you have, I mean, your testimony was that you have testified 50 times, is that correct?
Yes,
And have all the testimony you have provided had been in cases in this courthouse or elsewhere?
elsewhere.
Okay. How many cases have you done here as a medical expert called by the district attorney's office
In Bear County?
in Burke County?
I don't know.
Can you estimate?
No,
It'd been more than a dozen, less than a dozen?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
All
So-
right, that'll be overruled.
more than a dozen?
Okay. More than 2 dozen, less than 2 dozen?
I don't know. I've testified in multiple counties throughout Texas as well as Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
All right. How many of the 50 cases where you have provided testimony have been in Texas?
47.
47, okay. And so you understand that this is an adversarial system, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. That the district attorney is on one side and the citizen accused is on the other side, is that right?
yes,
Okay. And like any party to a litigation, the district attorney wants to win the case, is that right?
I guess, yes.
All right. And because you believe that the district attorney wants the conviction, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right?
I was
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm
subpoenaed.
sorry, just when an objection is raised, just stop speaking so I can hear the objection and make a ruling.
Objection, Your Honor, misstatement of the law.
Any other objection?
Relevance, Your Honor.
Right, sustained.
Did the district attorney's office call you concerning this case?
I got a subpoena and then we pre-trialed about the case.
All right, and you talked to someone over the telephone or face to face?
Face to face.
All right, was it in this building?
Yes,
All right, do you know the name of the person you talked to?
Mr. Herrera,
Mr. Aurora?
correct.
All right, and when was that you talked to Mr. Aurora?
This morning.
All right, anytime prior to this morning
No,
by telephone?
no,
And he explained the case to you as to what would you expected your testimony is expected to be?
he asked me what I would be able to say, how I would explain my medical evaluation.
Okay. But you knew you were the expectations of the district attorney were with regards to this case as to what you were supposed to testify, right?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge as to what the Bear County District Attorney
Sustained.
expects.
Did you discuss their expectations?
Objection, same objection, Your Honor.
That'll be overruled.
No,
Did they ask you questions about this case?
yes,
All right. And they didn't say we want an expert because we expect to lose this case, right?
no,
Okay. They didn't say we need an expert like yourself because we want to see Mr. Garcia Sanchez being acquitted right?
No,
Mr. Herrera didn't say we need an expert because we want to drop the case. Is that right?
no,
You believe that Mr. Herrera wanted your help to get a conviction. Is that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Sustained,
Also bias, Your Honor.
sustained,
And the Center for Miracles is set up to help the DA's office get a conviction, right?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
sustained,
You do not believe the district attorney's office will want you to come to a conclusion that will hurt his case. Is that right? Or their case?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
sustained,
Now, did you bring your the report produced by yourself or by the Center for Miracles with you today?
no,
Did you review that report in preparation for your trial today?
yes,
Okay. Your findings in the report mention that there was no signs of incontinence. Is that right?
I don't recall if it specifically said that. But there was no signs of incontinence.
There was no pain during urination neither. Is that right?
Correct,
No anal/genital rash. No signs of that either, right?
I'm sorry, no.
No
anal-
signs of anal genital rash.
Correct,
No genital pain.
correct,
No discharge.
correct,
No anal bleeding.
correct,
No reports of sleep disturbances.
correct,
No school problems.
correct,
No fear, no anger.
correct,
No sexualized behavior.
correct,
No depressive symptoms.
correct,
No regressive symptoms.
correct,
No suicidal thoughts.
correct,
No PTSD symptoms.
correct.
Can you explain what PTSD means?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
And there were no signs of that.
No symptoms that might suggest that the child had that, yes,
And no other behavior problems.
correct,
And the anus was normal.
correct.
And there is no such thing as a perfect anus.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, is there a perfect anus that you've seen?
I don't qualify the genitals that I examine as such.
You don't qualify them,
I do not.
but you saw no evidence of ruptures in her anus.
Correct,
And you use a colposcope in your examination or Dr. Norat,
correct.
and you observed that.
Yes,
And tell the jury what a colposcope is.
a colposcope is a big light and a magnifying glass.
It's kind of like a microscope.
Yes,
Is there magnification between 5 times to 30 times what it's looking at?
ours goes to 15 times.
15 times?
Yes,
Okay. And that type of magnification was used in this case, right?
no,
What type of?
we did the lowest magnification, which is 3.5.
3.5. And were you able to observe any ruptures or in her anus?
Completely normal exam.
Completely normal. About her anus specifically,
Yes,
all right? No signs of bleeding,
no,
okay. No distortions, extensions, or of any type?
no,
Uh, Now, there was no report of vaginal penetration, right?
correct.
And nonetheless, a exam was conducted in that area as well.
Correct.
You think that a complainant that doesn't report vaginal penetration should be traumatized with additional examinations? Or do you think that a complainant that does not report vaginal penetrations should be traumatized with additional examinations in that area?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative and calls for speculation.
She's an expert judge.
Sustained.
So the lack of findings, physical findings would be consistent with no sexual abuse, right?
It could be, yes,
Okay. And so if there was no sexual abuse, you will have no physical findings. Is that right?
yes,
And there is no scientific tool to distinguish fact from fiction. Would you agree with me?
yes,
It's all based on her report,
I'm
on
sorry.
medical history.
It's all. It's what is,
What she told you, basically.
what she told me, I'm trying to clarify what you're asking me. It's all based, what's it's,
Okay. The examination, your medical findings, and your report are all based on the medical history she provided,
my medical diagnosis is
Right.
based on,
right? Yeah. Of the 50 cases that you have provided testimony for, have all that testimony been in cases as an expert for the state?
yes,
Okay, so 100% of your income is derived from providing testimony for the state, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative and mischaracterization of the witness's testimony. on direct.
Objection is untimely. The witness has already responded. May I ask your next
Okay,
question?
well, your testimony for Center for Miracles, you testify that you do that 100% of your time, is that right?
I evaluate children for most of my time.
Right, okay, and your testimony that you have provided for the state based on those evaluations accounts for 100% of your time, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
My testimony does not account for 100% of my time. I evaluate children for approximately 60% of my time. The other 40% is spent as I am the fellowship program director. So I train other pediatricians to be child abuse pediatricians. So I manage an administration for that. I participate in multiple community as well as state, regional, and national committees. That is part of how I use my time. I also provide education and teaching to multiple professionals throughout our region. So I use my time as well as to medical students, nursing students, PA students, residents, and other fellows, not child abuse pediatrics fellows. Providing testimony when I am subpoenaed. I do provide testimony. Most of that testimony is unpaid as part directly for that testimony. It is part of my job. If I violate a child and I'm subpoenaed regarding that case, I provide testimony in that case.
When you provide testimony is for the children that you have evaluated in the Center for Miracles, right?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay. And you have never provided, you never assisted the defense of a citizen accused as an expert?
I have.
Okay. What percentage of your, how many cases have you provided then?
Probably about 20 of them. I've never testified because I've never been called to testify in those cases.
Oh, so you have been like a consultant.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a difference between being a consultant and being a testifying expert witness? Is there?
Yes.
Okay. Being a consultant, you are just asked questions and perhaps produce a report, right?
Correct.
Okay. But testimony, as you're doing that today, you have not provided for a defense attorney, right?
Correct.
Pass the witness.
State.
Dr. Kissoon, just to clarify, are you employed by the Bexar County District Attorney's Office?
I am not.
Are you employed by any police department agency in the state of Texas?
I am not.
And now, when you testified on cross-examination that you're required to document any medical treatment of patients, correct?
Correct. Any medical encounter.
Okay. And is that prepared to be turned over to, and for the purpose of being turned over to any law enforcement agency?
No.
Again, you testified that you saw no physical injuries or signs of trauma when conducting the exam on Mia. Is that correct?
Correct.
And again, for the jury, would you expect to find any physical injuries or physical signs of trauma on a child?
Ask and answer, Judge.
Was it asked and answered by, was it asked by the state or was it?
By the
asked-
state.
All right, that would be sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor. We'll pass the witness.
No further questions, Judge.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Excused by the state, Your Honor.
Excuse me.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. Only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
State, call your next witness.
State calls Juanita Maras.
Your fellow, what is his name? FOR18.
If you'll take a seat here, please. Excuse me, miss, if you'll take a seat here. Can you raise your right hand for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can have a seat. And that's the microphone. And if you'll make sure that you speak loudly enough for the jurors to hear you, can you state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Juanita Cortez Mares,
All right, and can you spell your last name, please?
Mares.
All right, state.
Good morning. Can you please state how you're presently employed?
I am in private practice as a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas.
And to be a licensed professional counselor, do you have to go through any training?
Yes, sir.
What sort of training is required?
An undergraduate degree, and then after that, a master's in the one that I received was in community counseling at St. Mary's University.
And so you say you're in private practice and you take private clients.
Yes, sir.
Did you have, on any instance, did you meet a client named Mia Escalante?
Yes, sir.
When did you meet with Mia?
The first time I met her was September 20th, 2018.
When you met with Mia, do you know what the reason for the first visit was?
Yes, sir. She was coming to counseling because she was being bullied at school. Her mother felt that she was feeling sad, depressed, and she was also experiencing having difficulty in her studies.
Okay, and what sort of, do you recall the demeanor of Mia when you first met her?
Shy, quiet, but she was articulate and she did answer my questions. She was attentive. She made good eye contact with me.
On a first visit with a new patient, is there anything that you would tell the new patient to warn them about, mandatory reporting requirements, for instance?
Yes, sir, I did. I went over with Mia while her mother was present, that if she were to report to me that she was either verbally, emotionally, physically, or sexually abused, it is something that needs to be reported by law.
So in this moment, when you gave her this warning, were you asking her to report something to you?
No, sir. I was going over with her what her rights to privacy and confidentiality were. And I usually state this, sir, in front of the parent or parents, because this is also making the parent aware that if the child makes an outcry to me, I will be reporting it. And I even go so far as to state if it's a coach, a teacher, a grandparent, mom or dad, this also makes the parent aware that if they have done something, it is my duty to report it.
Okay. And without saying anything that she may have told you, after that meeting, the very first meeting, the intake, did you have to report anything?
No, sir.
Okay. And let's maybe delve into mandatory reporting a little bit. Let's say you learn of something that's mandatory reportable, but you also learn that that thing has already been reported to the police.
Right.
Are you still required to report?
I would report if there was additional information that I had become aware of that had not been reported.
Okay. At the second meeting with Mia, when was that?
That was on the 24th of September.
On the 24th of September, when you met with Mia, without saying anything that she might have said, did she say anything to you that you would consider would have been mandatory reportable?
She stated that she had had a conversation with her mother.
And remember, we can't say what she said,
Okay.
but was this,
her mother became aware that Mia had been abused physically and sexually. And Mia wanted me to
I'm
know
gonna
about it.
object, Judge. This calls for hearsay and, this witness has not been, proposed as an expert witness. And, she cannot testify of something she did not directly observe herself.
All right, with regards to that objection to the last answer, it's untimely. The witness has already answered. Ask your next question, please.
So how long did you meet with Mia?
I believe I saw her for 14 sessions.
And over those 14, about how long were the sessions?
The majority of the sessions were 60 minutes long. I believe that there was one session where it was just 30 minutes long.
Okay. And over those sessions, did you form an opinion about whether she's a trustworthy person?
Yes, sir.
And what was that opinion?
I believe that she was trustworthy
I'm
and
gonna
that she,
object, Judge, to hearsay, and, this witness cannot be qualified as an expert.
I don't think she's about to give any hearsay, and I don't think you need to be an expert. He asked the same question of the mother yesterday, who was also not an expert.
All right, with regards to your second objection, that will be sustained.
Um,
And I'm sorry, just one moment. Are we switching out? All right, everyone, you can remain seated or stretch in the box and let them switch out. And anytime you all need to stretch in the box, it's okay to stretch in the box. All right, could I have the hello.
Interpreter's ready, Your Honor.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear and affirm you will faithfully translate from English into Spanish and Spanish into English, so help you God? All right, could you state your name for the record?
Maria.
All right, thank you. All right, state, you may continue.
So over the time when you were able to have your sessions with Mia, and you talked about when she first started coming, did you notice an improvement over the span of your sessions?
yes, sir.
Did you notice an improvement? What sort of improvements did you notice?
She was doing better in her grades. She originally, back in the 5th grade, she was earning like 50s.
I'm gonna object, Judge, because of lack of personal knowledge as to what her grades were,
All right,
based on hearsay.
all right, that'll be overruled.
You may continue.
And she had earned like about a 30, 36 on her social studies. She, during one session, she came back, she made A's, she made a B in reading, and in her social studies, she had brought it up to a 70.
And in terms of how she was able to communicate with you and give you a narrative about her life, did you notice a change from your first sessions and as time went on to the later sessions?
I'm gonna object to leading.
Overruled.
You may answer.
Ask that again, please.
So in terms of her ability to give you her narrative and to speak with you, be open, that sort of thing, did you notice an improvement from the beginning as opposed to your first sessions, as opposed to your later sessions at the end?
Yes. May I bring up several points?
You may. I will.
Not responsive to the question asked.
Sustained.
what sort of things did you notice? What are some examples of improved in communication coming from Mia over time?
Your Honor, this witness, I'm gonna object, this witness is not an expert, I'm not able to provide an opinion, an expert opinion as to any kind of behavior. She's not a psychologist, she's not a pediatrician. So that's my objection.
All right, Dave, do you want to
The
lay
state is
foundation?
just asking about the communication, the forthcomingness. You don't have to be an expert to know if
You
someone.
want to lay the foundation?
No, the state is not submitting her as an expert.
All right, then the objection is sustained.
Um, Are you aware of what her living situation was while she was having the sessions with you?
She was living with her mother and her little brother. The first time I met her, I believe her little brother was 4 years old. And then I think by the time session ceased, he had turned 5.
Are you aware of the allegations against her father and why we're here today?
Yes,
Do you know when those allegations came about within the timeline of your visits with Mia?
I'm gonna object to personal knowledge and whatever response she's required to answer is not based on personal knowledge and it's also
Overruled.
hearsay.
You may answer.
You may answer.
when she came to me and told me about the abuse, then when the mother
Objection,
stated,
Judge, hearsay.
Overrule.
You may answer.
and then the mother reported to the police officer, Mr. D. Feliciano. And then going forward, when she went for her pelvic exam, gave a urine sample and blood was drawn.
Mhm.
I'm gonna object, the answer is not based on personal knowledge. And is not responsive to the question asked.
All right, with regards to non-responsive, that will be sustained.
Did you start seeing her before or after the allegation was initially made?
I saw her on the 20th.
Mhm.
And then on the 24th is when she stated,
I'm gonna object to hearsay, Judge.
Over,
She said she stated.
no. Is there another objection other than hearsay?
Well, she's not an expert and this is not something that she relied on in having any type of an opinion. And not responsive to the question. asked.
Sustained to non-responsive.
No further questions. Pass the witness.
All right, defense.
Your contacts with the complainant were at your office only, right?
yes, sir.
And they were limited to 1 hour and perhaps half an hour later of some sort?
The majority were 60 minutes and there was only one that was 30 minutes long.
Okay. But you never went to visit her house or anything like,
No, sir.
never saw the living conditions,
No, sir.
never evaluated the cleanliness of the home or any other.
No, sir.
Nothing like that. Okay. And you had no prior knowledge of this complainant, right? Prior to September the 20th.
No, sir.
Okay. And can we safely say that you are not a truth detector? Nothing qualifies you for that?
That is correct.
Okay. Pursuant.
State.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse.
Excused.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. State, call your next witness.
State rests.
Defense,
I'm sorry,
state has rested their case.
Judge, at this point, may we approach?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a 10-minute break, so we'll be back at the 11:10. Is that enough time for everybody? All right, remember, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to deliberate in your own mind or with anyone else. If you see anything, turn it off. No investigation. Everything that you need to know about this case has come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, thank you, everyone. Please rise. And you can mute us and stop video. We're ready, Deputy.
All right, for the jury.
Would you read? I didn't remember anything.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Defense, call your witness.
Your Honor, I call Juan Antonio Garcia Sanchez to stand.
All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
¿Usted jura solemnemente o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad y nada más que la verdad con ayuda de Dios?
Sí, señora juez.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can lower your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an instruction. This is the instruction. The courts of Texas and of the United States are open to all persons and all persons who are able to understand the nature and obligations of an oath and who will swear to tell the truth are competent witnesses. That a person is not fluent in English or even that he may speak no English whatsoever does not diminish or increase his rights or the quality of any evidence offered by him. No juror should allow any bias or prejudice for or against persons who require the services of an interpreter to in any way affect the juror's deliberations upon the issues in the case. To ensure that the jury, the court, and the parties are receiving the same testimony, whenever a party or a witness does not speak English, the services of an interpreter are employed. The interpreters used by the court are highly competent and are well versed in the idioms of both languages. They place your complete confidence in them. You are further instructed that you, as the jury, are to base your deliberations on the questions as they came from the attorneys in the English language and the responses from the witnesses as they came from the interpreter in the English language. Does everyone understand? So when the interpreter interprets, that is what is being said. All right, defense, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Garcia Sanchez, can you tell us your full name?
¿Puede decir su nombre completo?
Juan Antonio García Sánchez,
Juan Antonio García Sánchez.
And how old are you, sir?
¿Qué edad tienes?
41 años.
41 years old.
Now, are you, do you understand English?
Un poquito.
A little.
Can you speak English fluently?
¿Puede usted hablar el inglés fluidamente?
No muy bien.
Not very well.
All right. Now tell me, where were you born?
En México.
In Mexico.
Is that Irapuato, Guanajuato?
Sí,
Eso es
señor.
en Guanajuato, Guanajuato. Yes, sir.
And when did you first come to the United States?
Object to relevance, Your Honor.
Overrule.
En el 2003.
In 2003.
And when you came here, where did you work initially?
¿Y cuándo usted vino para acá? ¿Dónde trabajamos?
Yo empecé trabajando en un restaurante alemán, se llamaba All Work Germany. Pues, All Work Germany.
I started working at a German restaurant. It was called Allward Germany. Allward Germany.
Now, at some point, did you meet Maria Escalante?
¿Cuándo usted conoció a María Escalante?
Después de años,
After years.
When did you first meet Maria Escalante?
¿Cuándo conoció por primera vez a María Escalante?
recuerdo como en el 2006.
I remember like in 2006.
And in what setting did you meet her? Where were you at?
¿Y en qué ambiente la conoció? ¿Dónde estaba?
Nos conocimos en un nightclub.
We met at a nightclub.
Okay. And then Did you develop a relationship with Maria Escalante?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
And out of the relationship, a child was born, is that right?
Y de esa relación nació un hijo, ¿es así?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
And at the time that the child was born, were you married to Maria Escalante?
Y para el momento en que nació el hijo, ¿usted estaba casado con María Escalante?
No, nos casamos después.
No, we got married afterwards.
Okay, and when did you get married, if you can remember?
¿Cuándo se casó, si es que recuerda?
No recuerdo muy bien, en 2008, 2009.
I don't remember very well. 2008, 2009.
All right, and the child, when was the child born?
¿Y el niño? ¿Cuándo nació el niño?
Él nació el 18 de marzo del 2014.
He was born in March 18th of 2014.
I'm talking about when was your daughter born?
Estoy hablando de dónde nació su hija.
Oh, aquí en San Antonio.
Oh, here in San Antonio.
But when? What date?
¿Cuándo? ¿Qué
En
fecha?
enero 4 del 2007.
In January 4th of 2007.
What is the name of your daughter?
¿Cuál es el nombre de su hija?
Mía Camila Escalante Sánchez.
Mía Camila Escalante Sánchez.
And she was your firstborn?
Y ella fue su primera hija.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
And you married the mother of Mia thereafter, is that right?
Y usted se casó con la mamá de Mía después de eso, ¿es así?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
And did you and Maria and Mia live together?
Y usted y María y Mía vivieron juntos.
Es correcto.
That is correct.
And what was the money situation or finances during when you first got married?
¿Y cómo era la situación de dinero o finanzas al principio cuando se casaron?
Bueno, déjeme explicarle. Yo siempre he sido una persona trabajadora.
Well, let me explain. I have always been a hardworking person.
Y estábamos bien.
And we were fine.
Where were you working when you first got married?
¿Dónde estaba usted trabajando cuando se casó?
Yo estaba trabajando en el restaurante Allward Germany.
I was working at the restaurant Allward Germany.
Did you have only one job or did you have other jobs?
¿Usted tenía solo un trabajo o tenía otros trabajos?
No, yo nada más recuerdo tenía ese trabajo nada más.
No, I only remember having that job only.
And was Maria also working?
¿María también estaba trabajando?
Sí.
Yes.
And who will take care of Mia when you were working and the mother was working?
¿Y quién cuidaba a Mía cuando usted trabajaba y la madre trabajaba?
Bueno, cuando nos juntamos recientemente, recuerdo que la cuidaba su mamá de mi ex esposa.
When we just got together, I remember that it was my wife's mother, my ex-wife's mother, who would take care of her.
And what kind of schedule, what years are we talking about when Maria's mother was taking care of your daughter?
¿Y de qué años estamos hablando cuando la mamá de María se ocupaba de su hija?
Estamos hablando desde el 2000, del 2008 a mediados de, como 2008 o 2009.
We are talking about mid 2008 till mid 2009, 2008 to 2009.
And where were you living in 2008 and 2009?
¿Y dónde vivían ustedes en el 2008 y 2009?
Yo vivía en mi apartamento, en el apartamento con un roommate. Está en el 2008, en el 2008 yo vivía con un amigo. En el apartamento, la calle se llamaba Glen Ranch. Los apartamentos, recuerdo, se llamaban Honey Hills. Y vivíamos en el tercer piso. Fue cuando ella quiso juntarse conmigo, recuerdo.
I was living in an apartment with a roommate. It was 2008, and I was living with a friend. The apartments, the street was called Lear Ranch, and the apartments were called Honey Hills. We were living on the third floor, and that is when she wanted to get together with me.
So did you get together with Maria and started living with Maria and your daughter in 2008 or 2009?
Entonces, ¿usted se juntó con María y comenzó a vivir con María y con su hija en el 2008 o en el 2009?
En el 2008.
In 2008.
All right. And Mia was about a year old, approximately?
Y Mía tenía más o menos un año aproximadamente.
Aproximadamente sí.
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And when you started living together with your wife and your daughter, what was the address or what was the location?
Objection asked and answered.
Overrule.
Y cuando usted estaba viviendo, comenzó a vivir con su esposa y con su hija, ¿cuál era la dirección? ¿Cuál era la ubicación?
Es Glen Ridge. No recuerdo muy bien, nomás la calle ya es mucho tiempo. La calle se llama Glen Ridge y los apartamentos se llaman, no sé si se llamaban o no, se llama Honey Hill.
It's Cleanbridge. I don't remember very well. It's been a long time. And the street was Cleanbridge, and the apartments, if I remember, they were called Honey Hills.
Okay. Where were you living in 2012? Do you remember that?
¿Y dónde estaban viviendo en 2012? ¿Recuerda eso?
Sí, claro.
Yes, of course.
Estábamos viviendo en los apartments Hidden Meadow,
We were living at the Hidden Meadow apartments.
pero antes de los Honey Hills vivimos en otros apartamentos que estaban cerca de ahí. Nos mudamos. Creo que duramos como 2 años en otros apartamentos. No recuerdo el nombre, pero estaban cerca de ahí de donde vivía anteriormente.
But before, we lived in other apartments nearby.
Object
Before
to the
living in
non-responsive
Bexar.
answer of this question.
Overrule.
Other apartments nearby. We moved, I think for 2 years at these other apartments. I don't remember the name anymore, but they were nearby.
So when Mia was 5, you were living at the Hill Meadows?
Entonces, cuando Mía tenía 5 años, vivían en Hidden Meadows.
Es posible.
It is possible.
Okay. So, and how long were you at Hidden Meadows? When did you move out of Hidden Meadows?
¿Y cuánto tiempo pasaron en Hidden Meadows? ¿Cuándo se mudaron de Hidden Meadows?
Recuerdo nos mudamos en el 2010 y ahí estuvimos mucho tiempo. Nos movimos en el 2017 a otros apartamentos que se llamaban Sierra Royale. Ese fue el último apartamento que yo estuve con ellos.
I remember it was in 2010. And then we were there for a long time until 2017. And then we moved to other apartments that were called Sierra Royale. That is the last time I was with them.
Okay, and in 2017, Mia was 10 years of age, right?
Objection leading.
Overrule.
En el 2017, Mía tenía 10 años, ¿correcto?
I think creo que 11.
I think 11.
All right. Now, do you recall the move from Hidden Meadows to Sierra Royale Apartments?
¿Usted recuerda la mudanza de Hidden Meadows a los apartamentos Sierra Royale?
Perfecto.
Perfectly.
Okay. Let me take you back. Where were you working in 2016?
Bien, vamos a retroceder. ¿Dónde estaba usted trabajando en el 2016?
Yo trabajaba en un campo de golf, se llamaba Canyon Spring.
I was working at a golf course called Canyon Spring.
And what were your duties in Canyon Spring, briefly?
¿Y qué estaba haciendo usted en Canyon Spring? Brevemente.
Maintenance.
Maintenance.
Mantenimiento.
Maintenance.
All right. And was there an incident at Canyon Springs or an accident that occurred in Canyon Springs?
¿Y hubo un incidente en Canyon Springs o un accidente que haya ocurrido en Canyon Springs?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
Do you recall the approximate date when that happened?
¿Usted recuerda la fecha aproximada de cuándo pasó eso?
Más o menos bien, sí.
More or less, well, yes.
Can you tell us when?
¿Puede decirnos cuándo?
Fue el 0908 del 2016. La primera injury que tuve en mi cervical, que me dieron un pelotazo en la nuca. Y la segunda fue en el 10, octubre 10 del 2016, 30 de octubre del 2016. Esa fue la segunda injury que tuve de mi lesión de mi espalda.
It was 09/08/2016. That was the first injury to my cervicals. Then the second one happened on October 10th of 2016. On October 30th of 2016, that was the second injury that I had to my back.
Okay, so the first injury, which area of your body was involved?
En la primera lesión, ¿qué parte de su cuerpo estuvo involucrada?
Las cervicales
The cervicals here in my neck.
Now you were pointing to, is that your neck?
Usted estaba señalando, ¿es eso su cuello?
sí, atrás de mi cuello.
Yes, the back of my neck.
Okay, and how did the injury happen?
¿Cómo ocurrió la lesión?
Estábamos haciéndole mantenimiento a los bunkers, que son los hoyos de arena. Yo y un empleado, y yo traía la weeder, y los jugadores que estaban tiraron con el driver, el jugador le pegó, nosotros no lo vimos por, no sé si el ruido de la weeder me agarró por detrás y el pelotazo, sentí el impacto en mi cuello.
We were doing maintenance to the bunkers. The bunkers are like the sand holes, me and another employee, and we were using the weed eater. And the players, they hit the ball, the driver, and I don't know, we didn't see it. I guess because of the noise of the weed eater, and it hit me from the back on my neck.
So you were hit by a golf ball, is that right?
Entonces usted fue golpeado por una pelota de golf, ¿es así?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
And that golf hit the back of your neck?
Y ese golf le pegó en la parte de atrás de su cuello.
Sí, es correcto.
That is correct.
And how strong did you feel being hit?
¿Y qué tan fuerte sintió usted que lo golpearon?
En el momento yo perdí la noción, la memoria como 5 o 6 segundos. Se me hizo, sentí que me pegaron con un bat, porque fue fuerte el impacto de una pelota.
At that time, I lost awareness or memory for like 5 or 6 seconds because I felt like if I had been hit with a bat because it was strong.
And did you lose consciousness?
Usted perdió el conocimiento.
5 o 6 segundos, dicen.
For 5, 6 seconds, yes, sir.
Did you fall to the ground?
Usted se cayó al suelo.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Did anybody see you or give you assistance?
¿Alguien lo vio a usted o le prestó asistencia?
Sí, los mismos golperos que me pegaron y mi amigo, ya nomás cuando recuperé la noción, ellos estaban echándome agua con hielo, güey. Después le hablaron a mi jefe y mi jefe vino por mí y me llevó al JUAN.
The interpreter needs to clarify one term. ¿Lo llevó a dónde, señor?
al taller, al
Okay.
centro de los...
Okay. Yes, the same golfers that hit me and my friend, they were assisting me. When I came back to myself, they were pouring iced water on me, and then they called my boss, and then my boss came and got me and took me to the shop.
Did they take you walking or
¿Lo
how did
llevaron,
they take you back to the shop?
lo llevaron caminando o cómo se lo llevaron al taller?
No, en un carrito que tenemos asignados.
No, in the car.
Me fui en el carro de mi jefe.
No, in
con
the
él.
cart, in some carts that are assigned to us. I left on my boss cart,
Or like a golf cart?
como un carrito de golf.
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
Were you sitting in a golf cart as a passenger or prostrate?
And I'm going to object to relevance. This simply isn't relevant to the matters at issue in this case.
How's this relevant?
The relevance is, Judge, that the level of pain and these injuries limited his ability to do much of anything thereafter.
All right, that'll be overruled.
¿Y usted iba sentado como pasajero en el carrito o iba postrado?
Iba al lado del chofer de mi jefe. Mi jefe iba manejando.
I was next to the driver, my boss. My boss was driving.
And what time of the day was this when you got hit by a golf ball?
¿Y qué hora del día era cuando fue golpeado por una pelota de golf?
Recuerdo como entre las 11:30, 11:45 de la mañana.
And I'm going to object to this question. The exact time he was hit by the golf ball is not relevant to the pain that he was in, anything like that. If that's what they want to draw out through testimony, then they should draw that out.
All right, that'll be overruled. You can answer the question.
I remember it was between 11:30, 11:45 in the morning.
And did you receive medical assistance of some sort?
¿Y usted recibió asistencia médica de algún tipo?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
Tell us what type of medical assistance did you get?
Díganos qué tipo de asistencia médica recibió.
Mi amigo, el que estaba conmigo trabajando, me auxilió, me llevó al hospital Centro Baptist North, Oaks, el que está ahí por 281.
My friend, the one that was working with me, he gave assistance to me. He took me to the Baptist Center, the one that is on North Oaks, the one that is around 281.
And did he drive you there or did you drive yourself there?
¿Y él lo llevó a usted manejando allá o usted manejó usted mismo?
No, él manejó.
No, he drove.
And were you seen by a doctor at the hospital?
¿Y un doctor lo vio en el hospital?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
And how long did you remain in the hospital that day?
¿Cuánto tiempo permaneció usted en el hospital ese día?
Como 45 minutos, una hora.
About 45 minutes, 1 hour.
Were you feeling any pain or discomfort?
¿Usted estaba sintiendo algún dolor o incomodidad?
Sí,
Yeah.
mucho dolor.
Yes, a lot of pain.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your discomfort level?
En una escala del 1 al 10, ¿cuál era su nivel de incomodidad?
Para serle realista, un 8 o 9, tenía un dolor muy intenso en mi cuello.
To be honest, an 8 or 9, I had a very intense pain in my neck.
And then, did the doctor prescribe medications?
El doctor le recetó medicamentos.
Pastillas, ibuprofen, nada
Ah.
más.
Pills, ibuprofen only.
For pain?
Para el dolor.
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
And were you able to go home or did you go back to work?
¿Y usted logró irse a casa o regresó al trabajo?
Mi amigo me llevó al trabajo para recoger su camioneta y ya me sentí, en lo que me sentía, me dijo, maneja tranquilo como puedas. Y me fui tranquilo, lo dejé a él en el lugar para que levantara su camioneta y yo me fui en mi camioneta tranquilamente a como pude manejar.
My friend took me back and I was already feeling, well, for him to pick up his truck. And he told me, well, drive calmly. So I left him there for him to pick up his truck. And then I went back driving calmly as I could.
And did you go back to work the next day?
¿Se regresó al trabajo al día siguiente?
No recuerdo muy bien, no creo, porque el doctor del hospital me refirió a Texas Med. Y al día siguiente tuve que ir al hospital Texas Med a que me dieran un diagnóstico. Recuerdo que era una doctora, pero era muy lejos y me refirió a otro hospital. Texas Med, que está más cerca de mi locación, que está ahí por el 10. Y 10 y I-10 en West 10, algo así por ahí.
I don't remember. I don't think so, because at the hospital, I was referred to Texas Med. So the next day I went to Texas Med.
Objected,
For-
non-responsive nature of this question or answer.
Sustained.
Now, after the first day, the date of the accident, did you get any medical treatment?
Después del primer día, el día del accidente, ¿usted recibió algún tratamiento médico?
Nada más me dieron pastillas. Los ibuprofeno, recuerdo, me metieron a un cubo, no sé cómo se le dice, me hicieron un MRI. Me metieron todo mi cuerpo. Lo único que recuerdo el doctor que me dijo que había tenido suerte porque es como si me hubieran dado un balazo y me hubiera podido morir. Pero dice que tuve una contusión cerebral. Algo así está escrito en los documentos que me dieron.
Only ibuprofen there. And then they put me inside like a cube. I don't know. And they did an MRI. They put my whole body inside. And the doctor said that I had been lucky because it was as if I had been hit by a bullet and that I could have died. But he said that I had like a concussion, like a brain concussion, something like that. It's written in the documents that I was given.
You object to the hearsay in his answer, Judge.
All right, that'll be sustained.
Now, so did the doctor take X-rays and CAT scans? Is that what you're telling us?
El doctor le tomó radiografías y tomografías. ¿Es eso lo que nos está diciendo?
Sí, señor, es correcto.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
All right, and you mentioned that the injury to your neck was September 8th of 2016.
Y usted mencionó que la lesión a su cuello fue el
Object
día
deleting.
Overruled.
8 de septiembre de 2018.
Sí, más o menos, no tengo la fecha exacta, pero más o menos sí.
Yes, more or less. I do not have the exact date, but more or less, yes.
And then did you sustain a second injury?
Luego usted sufrió una segunda lesión.
Sí, es correcto, señor.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
And when was the second?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the defendant looking at his phone while he's answering the questions from his counsel.
Sustained.
Al lugar,
Excuse me,
señor,
sir.
objeción a que utilice el teléfono mientras es
You're not
responde.
allowed to use your phone from the witness stand.
No se le permite utilizar su teléfono desde el estrado del testigo.
Disculpen, señora jueza.
I am sorry, Your Honor.
All right, defense, you may ask your next question.
Do you recall the date, approximate date of your second injury?
¿Usted recuerda la fecha aproximada de su segunda lesión?
El 30 de octubre del 2016.
October 30th of 2016.
So the span of time between the first injury and the second injury was approximately a little less than 2 months.
Object deleting.
Overruled.
Entonces, el tiempo transcurrido entre la primera lesión y la segunda lesión fue de más o menos 2 meses.
Creo que casi un mes y algo, no tengo muy bien la fecha exacta, pero sí, casi fueron entre esa fecha.
I think it was a month and something. I don't remember exactly, but yes, I think it was between those.
Now, between the first injury and the second injury, did you go back to work?
Entre la primera y la segunda lesión, ¿usted regresó al trabajar?
Después de unos días que vi Texas Med, me mandaron a regresar para trabajar. Sí, es correcto.
What type-
After a few days, when I saw Texas Med, I was sent back to work. Yes, correct.
And were there any provisions made at your work for the type of work that you should be able to do, given your condition?
¿Y se estableció alguna provisión en su trabajo con el tipo de trabajo que podía hacer?
No.
No.
And tell us about the second injury. How did that happen?
Y háblenos de la segunda lesión. ¿Cómo ocurrió?
Ok. La segunda lesión fue basada a mi primera lesión que yo tuve en el cuello.
Okay, the second injury was based on the first injury I had to my neck.
Did this happen at work, the second injury?
Esto ocurrió en el trabajo, la
Sí,
segunda lesión.
en el mismo trabajo.
Yes, at the same work.
El problema fue de que cuando tuve mi
Object
primera lesión,
to narrative, object non-responsive.
All right, that'll be overruled.
You can answer.
Puede responder.
la primera lesión que yo tuve, me mandaron a Texas Med y vi el doctor back. Y cuando él me diagnosticó, dijo que no pasaba nada, me dio pastillas igual para el dolor y me mandó para atrás al trabajo. Así estuvo consecutivamente, no me trataron bien mi lesión, él nada más decía que todo estaba bien, que necesitaba nada más pastillas.
The problem was that the first injury that I received, I went to Texas Med and I saw Dr. Barr, and he diagnosed me. And he said that it was nothing. He just gave me pills and he sent me back to work. And that's how it was consecutively. I didn't receive any treatment.
Your Honor, I'm going to again renew my objection that this is a narrative and it's not responsive to the yes or no question of did this injury happen at work?
Sustained.
How did the second injury happen?
¿Cómo ocurrió la segunda lesión?
La segunda lesión, yo le pedí a mi jefe tomar mis vacaciones porque no me estaba ayudando el dolor de mi nuca. Y me aprobaron las vacaciones. Y me dijo el jefe que tenía que regresar en octubre 24 del 2016, recuerdo.
For the second injury, I had asked my boss for vacations because the pain on my neck was not helping me, and the vacations got approved. And my boss asked me to return on October 24th of 2016, I remember.
So from the first injury to the second injury, were you in pain?
Desde la primera lesión hasta la segunda lesión, ¿usted estaba sintiendo dolor?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
What level of pain were you feeling during that period?
¿Y qué nivel de dolor sintió usted durante ese periodo?
8, 9, era muy intenso.
8, 9, it was quite intense.
No podía levantar ni un reque o una escoba con mi mano porque era muy intenso. Empecé a tener como cuando estaba dormido, como que me vibraba mi cerebro.
I couldn't even lift like a broom. And I started having, when I was sleeping, it was like my brain was shaking.
And what caused the second injury?
¿Y qué fue lo que
Did you
causó?
get hit or did you try to lift something or what?
¿Qué fue lo que causó la segunda lesión? ¿Usted recibió un golpe, trató de levantar algo o qué?
Traté de levantar cuando regresé de vacaciones el 24 de octubre, el fin de semana, que fue un domingo, estaba levantando un bote, traté de levantar un bote de 85 libras, a ponerlo como una casita donde toman los jugadores agua. Y en ese momento, cuando lo puse, sentí que algo se echó atrás o se me estiró. Traté de terminar.
After I came back from vacations on October 24th, it was a weekend. It was on a Sunday. I tried to lift a container that was about 185 pounds, and I was trying to put it into like a little house. It was water for the players. And when I lifted the weight, I feel like something pinched or something stretched in my back.
And were you at the shop or were you in the golf course at the time?
¿Usted se encontraba en el taller o en el campo de golf en ese momento?
En el campo de golf.
At the golf course.
Did you fall to the ground or
¿Usted se cayó al piso o?
No,
No.
was somebody else with you at the time?
¿Con usted en ese momento?
no, yo estaba el fin de semana, recuerdo éramos como 2 o 3 personas nada más. De hecho, yo nada más iba a hacer el cambio de bandera, porque se tiene que cambiar todos los días, pero eso relacionaba que tenías que poner los botes de agua en las estaciones. Más aparte, tenías que conectar una turban blow para hacer limpieza en el campo. Traté después de eso de terminar mi trabajo, y al día siguiente ya no me pude parar y ya se lo comuniqué a mi jefe.
All right, counsel, let me stop you right there. We are 5 minutes away from 12. And I said that we will break at 12 and then come back this afternoon at 1 o'clock to continue with the testimony. Is everyone okay with that? All right, so you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed.
I'm sorry, we didn't get that answer.
No, it's not from him. I'm talking to the jurors. That's okay. So you're not allowed to discuss the case amongst yourself or deliberate or do any investigation. Everything that you need to know is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? So we're going to be back here at 1, and we can go off record